The Port of Los Angeles, the nation's busiest port, which processes about a third of U.S. imports and exports, saw a 13% decline in January of this year compared to the same period last year. It also saw an 8% drop in cargo it handled year over year. Executive Director Seroka blamed an early cargo surge in 2025 as businesses rushed to get ahead of tariffs. And Gene joins us now in Studio 57. Thank you so much for being here. So there's clearly still a lot that we don't know. What are you hearing from businesses?
Well, a lot of questions, and probably more so than we have answers right now. But Supreme Court rescinded the specific tariffs that account for about 2/3 of all that have been assessed over the last year. That being said, questions come about of when do I get a refund? How do I apply for one? Is there going to be a refund plan in place? Second, what's going to happen next? The administration had been telegraphing new tariffs if these international emergency economic powers were declined by the Supreme Court. And we heard the president announce just that this afternoon. Section 122 tariffs of the Economic Expansion Act were initiated through executive order today. Question remains, when, how much, and does it affect me as an importer? Because they're a little more prescriptive. And then lastly, what is all this going to do to the cargo flow? Are we going to see a quick surge after Lunar New Year, or is it going to be the traditional lull that we witness here at the end of the first quarter?
So with this uncertainty, how do businesses still prepare? Because you mentioned the more prescriptive tariffs, the 10% global tariffs, that's a finite amount of time, right? 150 days. We don't exactly know when they're going to be imposed. And so businesses are still having to make these decisions. You mentioned back to school, all the summer, spring fashion. How do they start to make those calculations when the calendar doesn't change?
It's really tough. The executives I've spoken to just this week in New York alone are still planning different scenarios as opposed to focusing on the execution of their supply chain systems. The other piece to this is that purchase orders for retailers typically go out to Asia about 3 months in advance of shipments. I'm not seeing many cancellations right now, so that bodes well for the economy, us as a leading indicator, and the cargo flow continuing to come. But a lot of decisions will be based on price and timing and whether these new tariffs impact specific commodity groupings.
How do you staff your port not knowing what's coming in?
We're pretty resilient and flexible. The cargo volume that's moving through right now, Lindsay, is right at about where our 5-year average is. Last year, pretty high comps with people advancing inventories ahead of tariffs. A little bit of an outlier from my view, but realistically speaking, we've got the longshoremen, the skilled workers on the ground, the machinery, and the land to be able to handle even a little bit of an uptick coming after the holiday.
Seroka, we always appreciate when you visit us. Thank you so much.